We got to break Sariba up. Sariba is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it. We should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh, Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes, we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because let me tell you something, this is Dart Island. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Word of Mouth. We just getting ready to do our Friday weekend roundup so we can do like an overview of what happened during the week. There's a lot of certain topics in the media that is quite interesting. Guys know on Wednesday we spoke about the road and the port, and we spoke about the alternatives of the port, and then the very next day we saw where CNS printed an article. Matter of fact, that day, the very same day, they posted an article about the suggestion of the new cargo port going in the Breakers area. Problem is that you see, when we start to have these sort of conversations about the infrastructure upgrades that we need to have simply because our population has grown, progress is upon us, and whether we like it or not, there's a lot of things that need to be done. And a lot of those things aren't popular, or a lot of those things aren't things that we would have necessarily wanted to see happen. But we're at a point now where we have a certain population, it's growing. There's no real structure in how we are gonna evolve or how it's gonna end up. There's no real vision as to what Cayman would have looked like 20 years ago, 20 years now. We didn't, we used to have this thing called a lot of different called Vision Cayman, Vision 2000, all sorts of different programs. I guess they made some attempts to try to forecast some of the things that would have happened. Now, a lot of the things that we didn't really take into serious consideration was the melting pot of cultural differences that we have with different nationalities. I hate to throw out a number because I'll just say over 100 different nationalities are currently in the Cayman Islands working and being a part of the fabric and the lay of the land. So naturally, if you have over 100 different nationalities and there's only one Caymanian sort of people with the nationality of being a Caymanian, and then some of those who adopted Cayman as home, who become Caymanians by way of status and naturalization and other immigration ways to become a Caymanian, that increased our numbers, obviously. The thing that's interesting to me is that we see a lot of the behavioral habits from the different cultures. I've seen, and I can say it without any fear of contradiction, I've seen members from the Filipino community who come here and the same things that they do in the Philippines, they do here. Now, is it any fault to theirs? Is it any fault of theirs? I don't know. How do we gauge it? How do we talk about it without offending someone or making someone feel bad, or they feel as if you're trying to, victimize them? Bottom line is that when your culture teaches you, or you have grown up in a culture that's your behavior, that's your behavior. And I've seen, not all of them, but I've seen many of them demonstrate some of the things that they do normally where they're from. And I've seen it, like garbage. I see them drink beers and smoke cigarettes and leave it on the side of the road or on the wall, and as if they're in the Philippines. I see people from other countries do the same thing. And at the end of the day, if we don't talk about it, and if we don't have the conversation, then we'll never be able to at least plot a plan to try to help solve the issues, create awareness. education, let them know, I mean, I can tell you one place in particular that was fenced off because of the abuse people were using on their wall, and that's the church in Georgetown Harbor, the church right on the corner of going of Moringatown Road. There's a parking lot on the water across the street from the church, and the church had to fence it off or gate it or put a chain because people would go there, park in their cars, get out, sit on the wall. Beautiful view, harbor, the port, the cranes moving is always a nice place to go and sit. And people were just leaving garbage all over the place. People were just going there, sitting down, drinking a beer or having their food and leaving the garbage. So the church just couldn't tolerate it any longer, and they had to, change it off so nobody can have access to it. And I don't really blame them, to be honest with you. Um, so it's some of those things that we need to pay attention to. But again, like I said, it's a melting pot of cultural differences, and we need to at least try to figure out how to digest the the things in which we face. But at the end of the day, we can only mitigate some of these things based on the manpower and the resources that we have. So, and that's a discussion for another day, because we talk about we talk about traffic and the issues and the roads and the that. But the thing that blows my mind is, like I said, we talked about the possibility of a alternative location for the port, and of course, CNS jumps all over that and issues an whole article that they had, whatever. I guess it must be to say, oh, well, we talked about it. Listen, it doesn't matter. All I know is that if we didn't speak about it here, they would have never posted the article. End of story. In regards to the contents of it. But again, I'm glad that we could trigger conversation. Now we got them talking about it. We got Compass talking about it. Listen, the port need to be moved out of Georgetown. End of story. Now, where are we gonna put it? That's where we need to strategically look at where is the best possible place to put it. I hear people talking about Red Bay and all kind of foolishness. I don't even know how that even came into the conversation. Because yeah, Red Bay may have a safe harbor in the corner there, but you would have to dredge that whole thing out. Yeah, and you're still gonna have an impact. So if you look at the Breakers area, if you go on Google Earth and you you zoom in on that corner by Breakers where Mickaboo Pond and all, not Mickaboo Pond, Top Orange Springs, my apologies, and where the quarries are all located. And I saw one or two comments on the CNS site, and I can tell you, boy, we got some special people in Cayman. I mean, they always remain anonymous, but when I say what I'm going to say, the person who wrote it, if they ever watches this show or somebody watches it that may know them, may mention it, they'll know exactly who they are. Some bonehead person said, "Oh well, you can't connect the quarries to open up a port and make salt water go in there because it's gonna contaminate our water lens." And I laugh at that, and I'll tell you why I laugh at that. I wonder if that person understand what they uses to blast those holes and that they go 50 feet deep in some cases, or in most cases now, because the government gave them permission to go deeper so that they didn't have to blast any more holes. So as opposed to going to 5, 6 feet, 20 feet, whatever, you can go deeper, get more material, less holes, right? Just deeper. That was the theory behind it. That was what they were trying to accomplish. And one of the issues that I have with that is that people like this person who made the comment on CNS talking about, oh, you can't make salt water go into those ponds because it's going to affect the water table. That person clearly don't have a clue on what they use to blast those holes, which is fertilizer, which is toxic, right? So if they are okay with the blasting methods to create those holes that's in that water, then I can't understand why they have a problem with salt water. And what they don't realize is that half of those ponds got salt in them already from long time. Matter of fact, I know that the Cayman Salt Company, Sea Salt Company, gets their salt from one of those ponds down in that same area, and that's not connected to the ocean. So I don't know. I don't even know where they're going with that argument. And another thing is that this is the same person that probably live in a house that got deep well that drills into the water table to drain your septic gray water in. Maybe you need to be quiet. Maybe you should be quiet, but and do some research before you make stupid boneheaded comments. But you see, sites like CNS, they strive on anonymous stupidity. That's what it is. anonymous stupidity, because that's the only place you can go and be as dumb as you want to be and do it anonymously. So nobody never know who the idiot is that making dumb comments. But at the end of the day, that's what they feed off of. That's what they think is their viewership. But when you look at it, it's just a handful of people. Because if 200 people in Cayman wanted to build an ivory tower to the heavens, how much support you think they were going to get? That's not the consensus of the people, 200 people. So if 200 people comment on an article that is written and make comments, that's not the consensus of the people. Now, these platforms believe, oh, we got a huge followership because we had 200 comments. 200 comments, which 199 were dumb. There's some sensible comments on there, but I can tell you, you want to talk about a minefield of stupidity? Just go look on the anonymous comments. It's everywhere. It's ridiculous. But I guess the one thing I can tell you about Mile Road, the people who comment on there, most people they name there, so they don't really care. That's a little different. But CNS should probably put a function in their thing that say you can't leave a comment unless you identify who you are. We'll see how many people comment then. But they don't do that, obviously, because their numbers and their little viewership would plummet and go down through the ground. They would have nobody commenting on it because nobody don't want to stand behind what they say. Be full of hot air balloons in Cayman, you know. I don't understand that, right? Pure hot air balloon people. They like talk, but they don't want to come out there and own what they say. But again, like I said, we got CNS talking about the possibility of the port going in breakers. We need to put the port in breakers. End of story. Because the way Cayman sits right now, if we never had one other person come here to live, if the population never grew even by 10 people in the next 10 years, we still gonna have the same infrastructural issues and strain that we have now because we have already grown to a point where we have to do these upgrades. The East-West Arterial Road needs to go in. I don't care which environmentalists out there pound the pavement and talk foolishness. You got people calling the minister, asking the minister if we could reroute the road this way and go forward. You know the hypocrisy in saying that we should go further north of the Mastic Trail so we don't affect too much of the Mastic Trail. But no one took into consideration the further north trek that we're taking, how that's going to be impacted. And the thing that's where I don't see the balance of the conversation because most foreigners who have become Caymanians don't even know how the Mastic Trail started. They don't even know the purpose of the Mastic Trail. But I just want to give thanks to Edward Miller for highlighting that in the first meeting last Monday to help educate the so-called fly-by-night environmentalists who thought that they knew what the Mastic Trail was purposely done for. The Mastic Trail wasn't done for what they thought it was done for. It was to access fertile land for farming in the Northside district. So the fact that that was clarified, and I never heard one single solitary environmentalist that was there with their folders and their reports from some UK company, not one of them got up and contradicted Mr. Miller when he told them the history of the Mastic Trail. And if you think my comments are colorful, you should have been there to hear Mr. Edward Miller's comments. His was very colorful. He said this idea about the Mastic Trail is what they think it is today is a pile of garbage, almost quote unquote. So the facts are very simple. We need that road. Not that we want it, we need it. That road need to go through. Will there be some environmental impact? Absolutely. Will there be an environmental impact on rebuilding a new shopping plaza? Yep. Will there be an environmental impact for building a new house or complex or apartments or anything? Absolutely. Are those the things that we're willing to allow happen in order for the accommodation of our needs? I think so because planning have a whole list of rules that you have to abide by before you get permission to build anything. And one can imagine that if I have a piece of property that's in a residential zone area and I want to build a house and I submit the necessary plans that meets the necessary requirements, planning on giving me the go ahead. But I don't see no EIA report going on every single structure that's going to be built in Cayman. I don't see that happening. Nobody never saw the DART development happening. You think they didn't see that? What has created any major impact on our on our footprint other than that? They've been doing EIA studies for every building they building? I think not. But at the end of the day, I stand to be corrected. So if they got somebody that can shed some light on something contrary to what I'm saying, then by all means. So what I would like to see happen is that we have reasonable conversations when it comes to the topics that are going to affect the Caymanian people, the Caymanian brand, the Caymanian landscape, the Caymanian environment, everything. We need to have structured conversation. We need to have information that have the facts and the details that we understand what is actually being talked about or what is actually being proposed. But we have so many misinformed people who leave anonymous comments on news platforms that sensationalizes news. Yeah, they sensationalizes news. They do it all the time. Now, I understand and I get that in order to get viewership or readership or get people attention and to get traffic on your site, you have to say some sensationalized stuff. You have to make it seem to be something other than it really is and let people form their opinion by attracting them to the headline and they read it and then maybe some will read the contents. I don't know. And maybe some will ask the necessary questions, right? And if we are okay with having two fuel storage tanks facilities on the South Church Street corridor in the middle of a residential area, if we're okay with that, right? Because I can assure you, I don't see these platforms talking about that on a regular basis. No, 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 no. I don't see that. If a man down in his piece of inherited land digging out some trees in order to put some development in, I see him down there with their photographs talking about that. Oh, tearing down mangroves or tearing down trees without permission, all this foolishness. And I can tell you, no Caymanian, not one Caymanian, and when I say that, not one single cell group of Caymanians is driving around doing this. These are all people who come here and call Cayman home. And do they have a right to preserve? Absolutely. Do they have the right to voice their opinion? I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is that they leave from wherever they come from and they come here and they try to turn here into where they left. And I just can't figure out why you left where you was if everywhere you go you trying to turn it into there. You know, I heard somebody make a comment, somebody who've come to Cayman and we've graciously allowed them to be a Caymanian. They've been here for a while and whatnot. I heard them say, I heard them use the remark that yeah, foreigners come here and try to tell us what to do. This is a person that has come here as a foreigner and become a Caymanian. Okay, I'm just letting you know that's the type of thing that's happening in Cayman. I don't want no problem with any of that. I just don't understand why is it that every time we need to do something from an infrastructural standpoint or anything, we always have these people who are trying to dictate and tell us how to do things and when to do it. That got to stop. That need to stop. Now, some of the things that are happening on other fronts, we also need to continue to keep the awareness going. I mean, I heard Miss Juliana on Radio Cayman yesterday talking about education and talking about the importance of education and talking about how she fights very hard for it and all these different things. My observation with the conversation that she had was very simple: is that she can do better. She need to do better. 100%. Now, you can get on the radio. She's a very articulate speaker because she can articulate things very well. She's a lawyer. And I believe that with all of the wealth of knowledge that this woman has, I just don't see the impacts from her. I don't see it. I don't when it comes to the educational brand and product that we have here. I heard her talk about Caymankind. And let me tell her something. I'm going to stop coining that phrase about Caymankind because we don't even have a brand. How are we going to have a Caymankind with no brand? There's nothing on this island that resembles who we are. She talked about that, and that I agree with. She talked about who we are from a cultural standpoint, and that it's okay to to adapt different cultures and to allow them to come here, but it's not okay for those things to change us, and that we should represent who we are at the very core at all times. That I can agree with her with. Some other things that she said that was very interesting, but we got to stop assuming that we have a Cayman kind, and somehow the institutionalized people who bought into that have now somehow believed that that's a brand. Cayman kind is not a brand. Take a drive from Hawkesbury Bay all the way to Norwest Point. Do it. And look at all of the establishments along that corridor and show me one thing on it that say Caymanian brand or Caymanian kind. Go show it to me. I want to see, because unless we have something that is brand Cayman, we can't talk about Cayman kind. We can't. You heard me say this before. Yeah. The only Cayman kind is that we've been kind for too long. That's the only relevancy to using the term Cayman and kind in the same sentence. We've been kind for too long in Cayman. That's what should be stated. That should be the phrase. And the time for us to stick a pin, put that peg in the sand, draw the line, and say, listen, nothing more can take place until we can properly digest the things that we have adopted and understand how to structurally and put things in legislation in order to accommodate. You know, years ago when they had the rollover policy was tailor made for executive people. It was to make sure that everybody on the lower totem of the work permit pool were the people who were being rolled over and sent home every 7 years. But yet, the people in the executive level could apply for key employee. Now, I want to ask you a question. How many Caymanian families out there that work every day to make sure their children got food, a roof over their head, and a good education? And God bless those who get into the scholarship program and have families that can afford to send them off to get tertiary education. How many of those families out there are sending their children to school abroad and making the sacrifices that they make to come home to be a laborer? And I not got nothing against the laborers and the construction workers and the gardeners and the housekeepers. I have nothing against any of those jobs or those people. I am simply saying, how many families on this island that send their children to school and off to college have sent them to college to get a degree to come back to take the jobs that we are seemingly protecting with the rollover policy? No, 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 no. None of us not doing that. Now, if my son or my daughter want to be a gardener, a helper, or a bartender, or a waiter, or whatever they want to be, I support it 100 million%. I'll never victimize them, and I will never ostracize them and make them feel like they're not good enough for them. I would never do it, because that's not my nature. But I'm not doing the things that I do to create an environment or opportunities for them so that they can go and take the $4.50 an hour job. But we have allowed the institutions in the executive corridor convince our government to create a key employee status. Now, let's dive into the term key employee. Key employee mean here is an executive level person that making good money that this institution relies on to continue to make money, right? But yet we got Caymanians who are going abroad every year, getting education, coming back, and they can't get into these institutions because they're being marginalized for international experience. You can't get it. You don't have that experience. But all of a sudden now, the rollover policy, which was geared towards job security and fairness and making sure that the distribution and the opportunities are fair, but it should have been across the board, not just for those low income jobs. It should have been on the executive level, from the equity partner right down. But we didn't see that. We allowed them to tailor make and put some amendments into the rollover policy that accommodated them. So all of our smart Caymanian children have to go out and compete with the key employee status, the people that wasn't rolled over, that would create that job market for the Caymanian educated person who may have attained the necessary education skill set to go into the key employee posts. It was the rollover policy was specifically designed to create those gaps in the workforce that gave opportunity for the local harvest. But what we did is that we left the lower income jobs for the Caymanians and allowed the financial services and the other industries create this key employee foolishness. And nobody can tell me that key employee caveat in that law wasn't influenced by those institutions, because it was. It was. So when you see government sit down around a table and pass things through cabinet and go on, those things are not normally fully fueled by the politician. They are incorporated with the mindset of the institutions that dictate politics in this country. And you know who gets the political whiplash? Me and you. We pick up the political whiplash from the decisions that they have been influenced to make. I can tell you this without a doubt. I've sat in rooms with government 2009, and I listened to them be influenced by the private sector. I heard it many times. I saw the underbelly of politics. Hence the reason why I got out of that and didn't want to be a part of it. Don't want to become whatever. Don't want to become what I despise the more. And I'm telling you, and these are the things that create the consequences in which you and I have to live in. Poor policy making, absence thereof policies. You know, we've been talking about fuel regulation since Moses rode camels in the desert, but nobody don't want to do anything. They don't want to implement anything. Why? Because it's politically influenced by the outside arena, and those are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. We can't dive into the reality of what's existing now without understanding what caused it. We can't do it. Excuse me. So when I heard Miss Juliana talk about the importance of education, okay, I agree. I don't disagree in any way, in any form. I think she did a very well job articulating it. But what I think a lot of politicians are missing is the fact that it's okay to have a harvest of smart people, but when you have a system that marginalize them and ostracize them and create an almost impossible situation for them to properly participate, that is the problem. We got to fix the system before we start educating so many people, because we could just create a leader society. We can have a bunch of smart people pumping gas, which is nothing wrong pumping gas. I use that as a hypothetical example. We can have people with CPAs, certified public accountants, at the cash register, checking groceries or packing shelves or raking yard or ironing clothes in a hotel. I'm telling you, because we have failed at fixing the system, and it's not hard to do. You're gonna have a lot of pushback from the financial service industry, the banks, and all of the people who have been handsomely benefiting from it. You're gonna have a whole lot of pushback. They might even threaten to close up shop, but they ain't going nowhere. The only reason for any financial institute in this country to close up shop is if their customers cut them off, not the government or the structure that's around them. No, they ain't going nowhere. Government need to sit down and strategically come up with a policy that they have to abide by, and they'll get used to it. They'll adapt. Everybody adapt to things that are adverse. Everybody adapt to things that they're not used to. COVID-19 taught us that. Nobody knew that amount of people could work from home until COVID-19 and still get the job done. You realize that financial service industries didn't skip a beat, didn't lose a dollar. In fact, I would argue to say they made more money during 2020, 2021, because people were forced to focus on doing nothing. But the financial service industry didn't need nobody to come in their buildings to do their work. They could all work from home. They could take their portals home and work, still get the job done. But that flew right on the radar. Nobody said nothing about it. But yet, all of a sudden, when one of our major pillars was shut down for almost 3 years, we never saw anybody else step up to the plate. Why the financial service industry didn't collectively get together, and all of the institutions and the service providers say, hey, you know what? Out of that 25% that we charge for service fees, let's throw 5% of that in collectively to give the government a welfare sovereignty that they could take care of the people during these times, especially the people that worked in the tourism industry. They didn't do that. No. They just increased their bonuses every year and never looked back. But sometimes you can't wait for people to make a suggestion of goodwill. Sometimes you have to create policies. You have to put legislation in place that demands. You think that any equity partner in any firm in this country is gonna say, "Oh well, I packing up shop and I leaving because instead of making 10 million bonus this year, I only making 8.5." They ain't going nowhere. Believe me when I tell you, they're not going nowhere. Here is the only reason why they exist. They can't go nowhere else in the world and get a job like what they can get here and can do the things they can do here. Believe me when I tell you, not one single equity partner in this country to date, whether retired or whether still active, can go anywhere else in the world and do anything that they've been doing here. None of them. And I challenge any one of them to prove me wrong. They can't because it don't exist. They they got other jurisdictions that compete with Cayman on the financial services. Of course, we're the fifth largest financial service in the world. So therefore, there's a first, second, third, and fourth that's before us and bigger than us, right? And yes, they have partners there that making what they make. I get it. In different jurisdictions, I don't have a problem with that. But you think any of the people that are here can go in any of those environments and have their way the way they have it here? They can't. So we got to stop letting them scaremonger us and pump fake us. We got to call a bluff. We got to simply put structure in place, legislation in place that say, look, in addition to the work permit fees and the licensing fees for your existence in the Cayman Islands government has created a sovereignty, which by absolute importance, we must extract 5% of the already 25% that is being charged to go into the sovereignty that takes care of welfare, education, healthcare, and all these things. These are the things that we need to start putting in place. The government don't need to be adding on, do this and this, and changing something on that in order to make. No, the government just need to take a good look at what we have, figure out how it is we're gonna get what we need from these things that already exist. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, okay? But nobody don't want to have that conversation. That conversation too real, and that hits the big boys. And yeah, we got a little face talking Caymanians in some of the big executive positions, but none of them not changing nothing. That's why I tag them with the name Token Caymanian, because they're not changing nothing. They think because, oh well, I got a Caymanian works under me, and one Caymanian or maybe two. Let's just say you got 10. That still is just a scratch on the surface. The system in which have marginalized and gated out and created hindrances for the proper participation of the Caymanian educational harvest is the problem, and we need to fix it. And nobody wants to have that conversation. You know why? Because the people that got the strongest dollars are those who have the strongest influence. And every politician is sitting down right now with a bag of things that was on a wish list that was given to them by the financiers, by the people who control the actual system. Because believe me when I tell you, the financial service industry isn't going to put a sovereignty in place by themselves. They're not going to make a suggestion. Well, you know what, guys? Let's just put a percentage of what we already making into a government sovereignty and give it back to the people of the Cayman Islands and the country itself. Because you know what? This country has been good to us, and we've been able to live a pretty good life here. So therefore, let's do the responsible thing. Instead of us waiting for someone to change the narrative in government, let us help them along. But they're not gonna ever do that. Come on, man. They're not doing that. They'll figure out ways how to make more and implement those things and spend hundreds of millions of dollars implementing them, as opposed to just saying this is what should be done. But there'll be a wave of educational shifts coming in the near future. We'll have smarter, younger, out of the box thinkers and doers, not just thinkers and talkers. that will implement some of these things. And hopefully, it'll be in time to save a whole generation of educational harvested people in the Cayman. I just don't understand why we have done such a awesome job of allowing a system and systems to continue to marginalize us and gate us out. And I don't care how many people out there keep talking about Caymanians lazy and we gave a Caymanian an opportunity. Listen, when you put a Caymanian or any person in an impossible situation, they're gonna fail. Because if you take 7 random nationalities that are here, I won't call any nationalities country name, but if you take 7 random nationalities and then you take a Caymanian and you put them all in the same exact job, in the same exact institution, paying exactly the same, you will find that their motivation is far different from the Caymanian motivation. Because one or maybe all 7 of those people have come from a jurisdiction in which they made nothing. So anything above nothing is a whole big deal for them. So they willing to work in any environment, be subjected to any sort of foolishness in order to make sure that they don't go back to zero. On the other hand, the Caymanian can't do that. Do we have lazy Caymanians that are just unemployable? Of course we do. But are we gonna let our guard down and continue to pretend that these things don't exist? But no, we can't do that. Oh boy. But again, those are some of the conversations. Again, we talk about traffic, and we see the public consultation program that the NRA have been doing, going to different districts, talking about it. And I think that's important because that's when you have an opportunity to either ask the questions, listen to what the panel has to say. You know, if you had any issues with the design or the impacts, you can ask the questions. In this particular case, I do believe that an EIA report is necessary, and I think that once it's completed, we can then figure out how to create a sustainable way of building this road. I think that's the whole purpose of the EIA for that project. So let's just hope that we don't have too many people getting misinformed by the people who have a biased position. And when I went to the first meeting, it was pretty clear that the impacts, excuse me, the impacts of not having the road on the social economic side of things is very impactful. People spending 4 or 5 hours a day in traffic. That's ridiculous, right? Unheard of. Someone made a comment, oh, well, we just got to reduce the cars. Okay, that's a good plan. We got to stop all these Japanese cars from coming in here. We got to stop everybody who want a work permit getting a driver's license. You want to have a very big impact immediately on the traffic. You want to have that? All the government got to do is bite the bullet. Bite the bullet and implement a 3-month process of on taking back the licenses for a huge sector of the work permits population. Because all of them don't need cars. Half of them didn't even drive cars until they get you. And then now we got them training them. I see Filipinos training people how to drive and never drive a car in their life till they come here. I see Jamaicans doing the same thing. I see the bus drivers, the Jamaican bus drivers, bring the same habits they brought from Jamaica right here in Cayman. And when I say this, I'm not speaking for all Jamaicans, I'm speaking for this sector of Jamaicans who come here and make it worse for the other Jamaicans who don't do these things. They're the worst drivers on this island, but yet not get one ticket yet. The police will set up a roadblock and give you a ticket for an expired tag on your car, whether it's 2 days or 3 days. Or they'll give you a ticket for 10 on your car, pull you over, chase you down with sirens and give you a ticket for 10. But we got bus drivers daily pulling in and out of traffic, stopping in the middle of the road, causing all the worst drivers in Cayman get all the blights, and the police don't do nothing about it. They don't do nothing about it. And half of the problem with traffic in Cayman is not the roads, It's bad drivers. I can tell you, I work for myself and I on the road 80% of the time during the day. And I can tell you, I see it with my own two eyes all day, every day. I know not to go in certain areas at 12 o'clock. I know not to come town before 9:30. I know not to be in town after 3:30 because it's a disaster. And people don't want to come to the realization that these are the problems. We got to stop granting driver's licenses for work permit holders that are here in transit. And then they could go online and buy a car from Japan, park it on the side of the road, and sell it. That got stopped. The first thing we got to do is stop importing cars, those Japanese deportee cars. We got to block them, stop them, cut them off. We need to take all of those Honda Fits that got a gas tank under the driver's seat and export them out of this country. They need to leave. We got to stop them from coming in here. And I don't care who got Honda Fit. I don't care. They're dangerous cars. And there's got to be a Honda Fit in every yard in Cayman. Somebody got Honda Fit. But are we gonna do the right thing, which is the unpopular thing? Are we gonna make the decision, bite the bullet, and do what's right? Because I can tell you, 34,000 work permits, and I can guarantee you half of those work permits are in the job pool that don't need that shouldn't have a driver's license. And if people want to say, "Oh, well, you can't discriminate against them," and not, I don't care. I don't care. So in order to have a major impact, these are the things that need to happen. Plain and simple. There's some other things that can be implemented, like scheduling schools on different times. They should just put a law, clean and straight. No private school can't open until 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock before they open. And they get out at 6 or whatever time they won't get out. But it won't be at no 3 o'clock. We open every school at 8:30 and 8 and close every school at 2:45 and 3. What else do you think will happen around that time? Other than the fact that everybody's going to be in that area trying to pick up and drop off. But these are the sort of things that you have to do that are unpopular. These are the things that you don't need public consultation for. There's some things that need public consultation, like building a road. Then there's some things that don't. Cabinet need to go in and say, look, no private school opens before 10 o'clock. End of story. Public schools open at 8, closes at 2. We got to structure this thing differently. Otherwise, I don't care how many roads you build. Because if you keep increasing the population, you're going to keep increasing the infrastructural stream, and you're gonna continue to have the same problems. It's going to be like a roundabout. Because I can tell you, we've definitely adopted that idea. And I can tell you, one more roundabout, we're going to all be going in a full circle. So Cayman crop circles is a real thing. Now, there are some other things that obviously I would love to talk about. Fuel, energy, consumption of energy. I can't talk enough about the licks that we get from the utility grid and how that plays out. It just blows my mind. And no one says anything. This 3 megawatt alternative energy that's coming online, that's been approved by OFREG, is going to have a further impact on the renewable energy surcharge. And we're going to foot the bill for it. And that's just how it's going to run. And nobody not going to say nothing. Every year they have inflation increase. Even in the midst of COVID, CUC had a 6.6% increase inflation. How that's allowed? Water Authority tried an inflation, but what did Mr. Goff told him over there at Offreg? You need to go back and justify why you doing it. Why they didn't do that with CUC? The port needs to be moved out of Georgetown. The East-West Arterial Road need to be built. Airport expansion, extension to get a longer runway so that we can capture some of those transatlantic flights that are flying over our head every day coming from Europe because we can't facilitate the bigger jets. We have the largest shipping registry in the world, but no mega yacht facilities, no accommodations for any of these registered ships. It's really sad how much of a shell we are when it comes to the infrastructure and the things that we should have on the table. It's a shame. You can't host you can't go to the Monaco boat shows and go all over the world, jet set around the world to all of these shipping registry things, and yet we not got one single facility here that can accommodate any major ship or any major yacht or any major boat. We don't. Nothing at all. I'll just go through some of the comments right quick now that I can see comments. Jonathan Powell, yep. They make salt from that. I didn't say who. Uh, Jonathan, I'll get you in I'll get you in the studio one day, Jonathan, because you one of the only people that really contributes comments on this page on a regular basis. Other people do too, but you have a lot to say, and we have to come in and you have to come in here and sit in with me one day, and we just go at it. Boy, you may be right on that one. You may be right on that when you say you don't think that the new generation of thinkers will be our own native Cayman. The thing is, if we do a good enough job, if we do a good enough job of implementing certain policies that will be reflective of who we are from a cultural standpoint, even those who have come here and been in the system long enough and become Caymanians would have been would have been institutionalized with that sort of mentality, so they would be able to champion the same causes that we would want our sixth and seventh generation Caymanians do. And I think that's the whole goal behind it. What some of the things that I've said is that if we have proper structure in place that identifies who we are and champions the narrative of ensuring that planning laws and schooling and all the things that are in place that dictates and that shapes an individual are mindful of our heritage. I think that over time, even those who have come here and become a part of the lay of the land and become a part of the fabric will also too understand the cultural makeup, and they'll also champion the cause. Now, I'm not telling you that it's a cool turkey fly by night sort of thing, but it's something that will have to take place gradually, right? Just like how we've been oppressed over the years to believe that we need someone to come from abroad to tell us how to do certain things. And we have adopted that in such a way that if you mention the word independence, people look at you like you're crazy. People look at you like you're mad. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that we have not really taken serious, and we're not really prioritized it to have the conversation in order to change the trajectory of where we're going in regards to who we are and what we want to look like and what keep. The one thing I got to tell you about the Camana Bay first phase, where the cinema and all, if you look at the architectural design of that establishment, it is very Caribbean geared and it's very culturally adapted to who we are. If you look at the building where mansion and the cinema and the medical places are on the corner there, that was designed off of Pedro Castle. Because I read the pamphlet and the booklet when they were doing the big thing, and the shutters and the louvers and stuff. When you look at the walkways and the balconies, it was designed off of Pedro Castle. I thought that was very thoughtful, and I thought that was brilliant. And I think that those are the sort of things that we need to embrace and adapt and implement. Now, I'm not telling you that a person who doing a private development such as a condo complex should have a certain way that they should have the buildings look, but I think it should be Caribbean geared. I look at all of these contemporary homes now with the flat roof. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It's to the point now where it's overdone. They overkilling it. You know, when you look at the apartments, and I hate to say it, but when you look at the apartments behind Grand Harbor, behind Hurley's, let me tell you something. That place looked like a prison. I would not want to live there. I don't. If someone gave me a place there, I would rent it out. I couldn't. That's not a place I can go home to because it just looked like a prison. But again, these are the sort of things that are transpiring, that are evolving and happening. That's the progress that we see. And I don't have anything against it. I'm just simply expressing my opinion on how it looks. I think I'm entitled to that. And when we look at the other institutions here, they have a lot of nice places that are being built. But again, as I said, planning laws like okay, let me just take a 2 second pin. Our planning laws should be representative of the things that are historic to us. Like for instance, we see where you have like and I'm trying my best not to call like the development names. Like let's just say down in Moonbeam, which is the one of the first Frank Hall developments. All right, we saw where large tracts of land was subdivided and homes were built, and some very nice homes are in there, by the way. But we allowed that developer to do that, which was great because it gave a lot of people opportunity to own homes. I'm not knocking that. But they didn't insist that they implemented proper drainage, proper sidewalk and stop signs and crossings within these neighborhoods. You go in there, everybody got a wall to the road. Everybody got a wall to the road that can afford one. And then and there's no proper drainage. Everybody got fence. So when you're doing these major subdivisions for housing, you must have the proper infrastructure in order to accommodate storm water and all these different things, drainage and areas where the water can drain to. And I only draw reference to that is because when you go to the US, which a lot of us frequent, and you see these major subdivisions, and then you see these big basins of water either in the front or in the back. It's because they had dug that basin out, and all under the road system in there is drainage that goes into that basin that catches the storm water. That's a catch water basin. But we don't do that here. We don't do that here, and it's not hard to do. Again, we look on the bypasses. The whole purpose of a bypass is to shuttle people from point A to point B with very little hindrance. But yet, we allow development now to build and access the bypass without an access road. So instead of have a merger lane, instead of telling them that they need to build a merger lane at their expense because you build in this development, build a merger lane that does not interfere with the flow of the traffic if you want approval. They don't do these things. They got to pull out right to the main road, stop, wait for traffic, as opposed to having a merger lane that merges into the flow of the traffic. They don't do it. And these are some of the small things that could be easily accomplished if we just get the politicians to take their head out the sand. Like, how long has it been since Foster's Airport have been causing major congestion in the Blumar and the Mango Tree Industrial Park area for donkey years now? Now Foster's got a whole sidewalk system right next to where you pull in, right? A whole sidewalk system where you pull in, as opposed to putting a turn lane there where people who are going to and from Foster's can get off of the traffic flow, get into the Foster's turn lane and turn into Foster's. No, 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 no. Let's hold the whole island up. And again, these are the simple things that can be done now. They could put a turn lane, remove the sidewalk, put a turn lane in there, push the sidewalk further back, because there's a lot of space there. I see people under the trees sitting on picnic tables eating food there. So there's about 40 feet between them and the road, so they could put a turn lane into Foster's there. but they don't want to do that. So those simple little things is what and nobody talks about these things, and I don't understand it. You know, Hurl is roundabout. Now, here's the thing that really blows my mind. And I don't think this is any government's fault. I think this is just the mentality really. And government, nobody wants to embark on these things because they're so afraid about the political backlash they will get that they don't do it. Because, oh, you can't do that because this one I like it. Listen, when you get to Hurley's roundabout coming from the Eastern District, we used to have a direct road that goes straight into South Sound. We have changed that to accommodate that apartment complex that's there now that were just built by NCB on the water. Again, another atrocious looking building. I mean, I don't have anything against the development that's there. The design is just, I don't know. It's crazy in my opinion. But what we've allowed them to do, for anybody who's familiar with the area, we've allowed them to force traffic going South Sound back onto the roundabout. Now, let me give you the kicker on that. Let me tell you how stupidly designed that is. And the civil engineers at NRA should have never allowed it. The NRA board should have never allowed that to happen to accommodate that building. That building should have been able to build their own auxiliary road on their own dollar, not on the government dollar. So we've had to disrupt the entire traffic flow to accommodate that one complex. So now, instead of going straight into South Sound and that far left lane, you got to now go onto the roundabout, enter the roundabout, only to exit the roundabout to go into South Sound. Oh, and the best part about that is the people coming from town or coming from Hurley's who comes on that roundabout also have a road that goes into South Sound and they collides. The two roads collide together. So somebody who wants to go to South Sound coming from the Eastern District is forced to go on the roundabout only to exit to go into South Sound. And then the people coming from town who wants to go to South Sound or to Scotia got to go around and exit on the same exact road. When you got a road sitting there with nobody, no access. So the apartment got access on and access off of it now. And the only reason why we didn't continue that being a straight road is because we took the building and their customers into consideration, and a whole island on that side have to pay the price for it. And that is the dumbest thing I ever seen in my life. But it's there. And they're trying to figure out how you're gonna fix the bottleneck. How you gonna fix the bottleneck when you keep putting things in place that making it worse? And if there's ever a place that we needed a overhead bypass, a overhead road is there, because you can't go left or right. To the left, it's Grand Harbor and the canal, and to the right, it's the Red Bay Basin, the sea. So you need to go overhead. You need to start overhead from Lion Center, a center lane for people who don't want to stop anywhere in that area, that they can get on that overpass and it need to come down all the way down to the corner by Red Rabbit where Dirty Reed used to be. It need to drop right there. And that those people can then go into the Eastern Districts, Savannah, Newlands, Prospect. But that make way too much sense. And you need that coming and towing from. So but you're not gonna get that. Because the politicians too afraid on what people will say about overhead. Does that resemble who we are culturally? No. But does 12-story buildings and now the 20 stories or the whatever stories that they approved? Because cabinet approved 20-story buildings. Understand that? So Dart get he 20-story building on top of his bridges that he built specifically for. Yeah, they get that. So you all must understand, that there's no enemies in politics. Not one of them is enemies in politics. When they're all trying to get something, they know how to come together. Believe that. And we have to make sure that we be mindful and keep the conversation going, because at the end of the day, how else are we gonna know what's taking place until it happens? We need people that can continue to carry out the awareness and the educational process. And when I look at education, and I look at healthcare, and I look at all of the fundamental things that are some of the cornerstones of things that we depend on in order to have some sort of sustainable way of living or some sort of good living, These things are far out of our reach. Healthy food, expensive. To put solar on your house, expensive. To get good health care, try don't get sick and be poor unless you got a common flu or arthritis, because anything beyond that you can't afford it. Therefore, you subjected to the worst, and that is suffering for a very long time and ultimately dying. We look at a lot of the structure around here. I mean, why Cayman got so many insurance companies? You know why? You know why the cost of insurance is so high? Because we got too many insurance companies. Everybody fighting for one small piece of pie. So every little piece of pie they get have to be so inflated in cost for it to make sense. That's why we're paying high prices. If we had three major insurance companies that were properly regulated, our prices would be a lot lower because the share of the pie would be a lot bigger for each company, which would make economical sense. But when you got all of these fly-by-night insurance companies opening up and fighting and for the same market, what else you think will happen? People not paying attention to what's happening around here, but they better wake up. Agree with the turning lanes. Da-da-da-da. Why you don't think will work, Jonathan? The overhead? Well, nothing beats a trial but a failure, right? And if you don't ask, you'll never know if you'll get. So I choose the modern contemporary look, flat roof style for my project because of cost. No, I know a lot of people use a flat roof because it reduces the cost of construction simply because, it costs more to erect a wood roof and all these other things. I agree with you. And and let me just be clear, I'm not knocking the contemporary look. I'm just saying I personally think that it's overkill. Everywhere you look, that's what people are doing. And a lot of people are not doing it just for the flat roof, for the reduced cost. They're doing it because they think that's the in thing. But it's okay. And to each his own, and that's their prerogative. That's their money. They do whatever they want with it. And no way informed. I'm trying to tell people how to build a house. I'm just saying, you know, when we look at the commercial projects and stuff, they're definitely not reflective of who we are from the Caribbean. I would, but our difference on the infrastructures are very different. But that's what makes good conversation, Jonathan, is that we have a difference of opinion. That makes good debate because you can argue your case and I can argue my case, and the people who can benefit is the people who are watching. And maybe I'll learn something from you, and maybe you'll learn something from me, and maybe we can come in the middle or meet in the middle and still accomplish exactly the same thing you want and the thing that I want, or how we see things. So that's the reason why. And then and this idea you got about a bridge in the North Sound. Again, we have a difference of opinion. Why would we put a bridge in the North Sound? Why would we build pillars in the North Sound when we can build bridges right on land? We can build overheads right on land to accomplish the exact same thing. So if we can build a bridge from Georgetown to Northside, why we can't build an overhead from Georgetown straight into Northside to Frank Sound? We can do the same thing. The only difference would be is that we won't be impacting the waters in the North Sound. We won't. And when a hurricane or a sea surge or something come, we don't have no fear of the bridge being destroyed by the water. At least we'll be on land with proper pillars. So whereas building a bridge in the North Sound is not a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't accomplish what you think it will accomplish, like create an alternative route, alleviating traffic. Certainly, a bridge in the North Sound would alleviate traffic. I'm not disagreeing with any of that, my friend. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that to have less impact on our environment, we don't need to build a bridge in the North Sound. Just build a overhead on land. And when we do the overhead, on the bottom of the overhead, we put a monorail system. So you can have people shuttle from Georgetown, East End, Northside, West Bay, do a full monorail system. Does it change our landscape and who we are culturally? Maybe. But if we're going to have innovated, out of the box kind of ideas and conversation, these are the things that we're going to have to consider. Because we can't go underground. We got too much limestone and pockets and waters and tables, so we can't go underground. We're not mountainous like other countries. So we gotta go overhead. Now we could avoid all of that by simply canceling all driver's license for people who are work permit, and you would have just taken 30,000 people off the road, and then there, no more traffic. So by the stroke of a pen, through cabinet, and passing a law, we can reduce traffic tomorrow morning if we want. But those are the hard decisions that nobody don't want to make. And I love to have a conversation with people who have the bravery, Jonathan, to even suggest putting a bridge in the North Sound. You my kind of people, because most people won't say that publicly because they afraid of being victimized and they're afraid of people criticizing them. I'm not criticizing your North Sound idea at all. I embrace it. I'm just saying that if we can build a bridge in the North Sound, we can build an overpass on land. Which one is more economically feasible and which one is less environmental impact? I would say building an overhead on land is cheaper than building a bridge over water and has less impact on the environment, on the marine environment, which we depend on so heavily. So that's just my opinion in regards to that. Now, we think that there are I was talking to somebody, man, my memory is a little shaky these days, but I can tell you, I was talking to somebody, I don't know if it was this month or January, and they were asking me, oh, well, why don't you guys have water taxes? I say, but we do. We do have water taxes, or we did. Let me not say we still do, because I know we had water taxes, but they were only running from one point to the. And I saw that they started to expand going into Newland. I thought that was a brilliant idea, but the only how that would have been economically feasible for the persons who owned it is if it was being backed and helped by the government, because the government should have then started to legislate certain laws around certain things. Because the thing is, right, when you have a development, and let me just stick this out there for a topic of discussion. If we have a huge development that requires X amount of laborers who work on that job site, so let's just speak hypothetically. Let's say you got a high rise and you got 75 people working on that high rise, right? Now we know most construction sites open at 7, ends at 5, typically. And if you got a site that got 75 to 100 people on it every day, right? That 75 to 100 people potentially could own a car and have a car to drive to and from work at their own convenience or at their convenience. That's 100 people that's on the road at the 7 o'clock hour, the 12 o'clock hour, and the 5 o'clock hour, because they get to work by 7, they go to lunch at 12, and they knock off at 5. So these are the compulsory times of day that they're on the road. Why is it that we don't implement a shuttle system for these big corporations who are doing these big buildings and say, look, it is your responsibility to get your employees from point A to point B. Now, I know in Jamaica, I had a cousin that used to work in one of the janitorial companies, and there was a bus that picked him up every morning, and all of the employees that worked in that district picked them up to come to work. They had a canteen where they ate their food and dropped them home in the evening. Now, I don't know how many people worked with him, but I'm just using that as an example. Those people didn't get into the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock traffic because one vehicle, a bus, was picking up 25 people and taking them to and from. So why can't we implement something very similar where these big construction sites who have multiple employees, and I think the employees would enjoy not having to buy a car and buy gas and drive to and from work. They would enjoy it because a lot of people use the bus system in Cayman. So if we were to get some sort of structure in place where we say, okay, if you are a big construction company and you're a big construction company, you got 200 employees, you got 100 employees, in the site that you got these employees on, you're responsible to shuttle them to and from work every day. That's a part of the agreement to get planning approval. And that may sound like, oh, you can't tell people. Yeah, no. We can tell people. exactly how our structure is, and that's what's in place, and that's what you got to do. We got to stop letting them tell us what's convenient for them, because that's what's inconvenient for everybody else. Because what's convenient for one small group of people may be inconveniencing a larger, greater community, wider community. So these are the sort of conversations and that we have. And then ironically, we talk about traffic and traffic jam. Look behind me on my live footage. We got a perfect road that we decide to close down and put pavers on for cruise ship passengers. Mine now, mine revitalization of Georgetown was to stick a dagger in it and finish kill it. Because that's what that road did. Oh, it's a nice, beautiful place to go and walk up and down and do what? And do what? If they continue to close roads in Georgetown, where do you think the traffic going to end up? The traffic going to end up in the outskirts of Georgetown into the poor neighborhoods like down in Rock Hole and Mary Street and those areas, right? Going Avenue already backed up. Where do you think the traffic that you are now not allowing to go through Georgetown, where do you think they're going to end up? They're going to end up in those neighborhoods, and then those neighborhoods are going to be congested, and then government going to realize, well, oh gee, we need to do something. Then they're going to have to buy out those neighborhoods. They're going to force people out. Then they're gonna open that up, and that's what that's the road that we're going on with this revitalization garbage. You understand? What we've done is we have allowed a developer to build buildings outside of town, just outside of town, attract all of the commercial and in the financial business that were going on in town into their institution. Town becomes a ghost town. Then they go in and they swoop up and buy all the land for cheap because nobody won't go in town no more because of it dead. I remember during Christmases in the 1990s, man, you go in Georgetown, man, it was like a big party. You couldn't people walking around shopping, do anything. And then we decide to close the road and put lamps and palm trees and pavers. And look behind it, nobody's there. Man, this film that you see behind started, tell you what, it was full. Yeah, every week they're doing something in our place. Every week they're down, they're pulling up pavers and putting them down. Anyway, I just know one thing for sure. I pray that Jay don't allow them to close no more roads in Georgetown, and that they heavily consider taking those lamps from down the middle or turning that back into a traffic road. And then during events, when you having events like Pirates Week and different things, yeah, close the road like we always do. It's a one time a year kind of event, but you got a road closed all year round, and then want to know why congestion is in the town area? That's why. The 700-800 cars that would normally go up through there to access the other parts of Georgetown can't do it no more. They got to go around, and that's the problem. Anyway, I think we freeze just now for a second. Or maybe just my laptop. No, all right. But we have to start making hard decisions, even though they're not popular, because otherwise we could just continue to see all this foolishness. Let's see what Jonathan's saying now. He said it will reduce our carbon footprint by saving gas. Hold on. Let me explain something to you about the carbon footprint, Jonathan, in case just so you have a better understanding. And I totally understand what you're saying about you're not gonna reduce no carbon footprint by putting no bridge in the North Sound. You're not gonna reduce it. The only how you reduce the carbon footprint is if you put CO2 scrubbers, filters on the CUC exhaust system. That's only how you're going to reduce carbon footprint. And another thing that is very important for everybody to know about the carbon footprint and about the greenhouse gases and the carbon and emissions and all that. 13% of all greenhouse gases comes from all combustion engines combined globally. Right? The largest impact on our atmosphere is methane, which comes from cows and agriculture farming. Those are the facts. So if we're going to talk about reducing our carbon footprint, then maybe we need to stop eating cows so that we don't have to raise them. The thing is that the impact of our carbon footprint, when you look at it per capita, because I hear the premier talking some stupidness a couple mornings ago on radio, Cayman, talking about Cayman has a bigger impact on the greenhouse gases than China, which I thought was the most ridiculous statement. But I knew that he was trying to articulate it by saying by suggesting that it was per capita. But what he don't realize is that our largest contributor to carbon in the Cayman Islands has nothing to do with a human being. No, it has everything to do with our consumption of what we're burning in order to deliver the consumption of what we're using, which is energy. On a clear day, Jonathan, here's what I'll ask you to do. On a clear day, around 5:45 in the evening, right before dawn, dusk, or whatever, I don't know, right before the sun sets, or as the sun sets, I want you to go out in Georgetown Harbor. I want you to stand up by Burger King on that corner there by the rail where the water is. And I want you to look out on the horizon. And I want you to look slightly to your left. And what you're going to see way out on the horizon is a dark cloud of smoke, a dark smoke of clouds or dark clouds on the horizon. And you know what that is? That is the exhaust fumes from CUC that goes there every evening. And if we can put filters on their exhaust stack, we would reduce our carbon footprint by 75%, 80%. Because they burn 100, and listen to me good. I'm gonna break it down in the scientific term so everybody understand. They burn 147,000 gallons of diesel per day. Now, do you know how much of number 2 low sulfur diesel is combustible? Only 78% of number 2 low sulfur diesel is combustible. So the other 22% is turned into smoke. That's not combustible. That's your carbon that floats off into the air. So 22% of 147,000 gallons of diesel every 24 hours blows off into the air with no restrictions. Why is it that they can't put a filter, CO2 scrubbers? Because they have them on their exhaust stacks to reduce their carbon footprint. So if we really want to reduce our carbon footprint, don't buy into the Premier's environmental tree hugging strategy that he's trying to incorporate himself or immerse himself into, Because he not got one single electric car, which is oxymoronic in my opinion anyway. And if you really want to reduce the carbon footprint in the Cayman Islands, legislate a law that makes sure that CUC put filters on their exhaust stacks and at no cost to the people, because they've been operating for 50 something years in Cayman, raking in the wheelbarrows of money from people so they can afford to put them on now. So if we want to talk about reducing our carbon footprint, there is where we start, because they're the largest contributor. Believe me when I tell you. Those are the facts. So for anybody who want to talk facts, those are the facts. Okay, let's talk about time saved. I agree. Put an overhead bypass from Georgetown to Northside, East End, saving the same time. Saving the same time. So this is why I like, this is a good conversation, but that's why you come in, or I can put you on remotely and we can have a debate over this. We have a debate. It'd be very healthy for people to see, and hear what we're saying. But at the end of the day, there are so many different things that we can implement here in Cayman that can reduce the cost of living immediately. But we're not interested in that, because we let the people who controls the high cost of living mechanisms, like the fuel and the food, we let them control and dictate. You understand? I won't know what the Premier doing at the Chamber conference, giving any speech about anything. Let the Chamber run itself. You need to worry about the mothers and fathers out there with children that's starving. That's what you need to be fixing. All this emphasis that we putting on the Chamber. Listen, We really got our priorities screwed up, completely screwed up. Just checking the comments. Moritz has their bus. Well, there's exactly. Moritz implement that, I believe, in Hughes and the other places. So why we can't do it on a larger scale? And that right there is, I'm glad that you guys pointed that out, because I did forget about the huge editorial and Moritz having shuttles for their employees. And that's a good start. Construction sites need to do the same thing. But the problem is that we can't expect them to do it on their own, because no company is going to take on an additional expense unless they have to. That's the reason why that's the reason why CUC don't have filters on their generators. Listen, I got a proposal that we had proposed back in 2010 when I was trying to get that refinery here in Cayman. We went into CUC and we proposed um, to put retrofit geothermal generators on all 17 of their generators. Let me explain this to you, right? And Jonathan, I want you to listen to this because I want your opinion on it. We had proposed to put geothermal generators on the CUC generators because CUC has a radiator system that catches, because they have a condensation, they have water that comes off of their generators, right? And it comes out at, and I stand to be corrected. I can't remember offhand now because it's been a long time I hadn't looked at the report, but it used to be 200 and something degrees Fahrenheit. So what the water do, and it's like 11,000 gallons per minute. So what it does, it goes into a pipe system that goes into a radiator at CUC compound. If you drive across Sparkers Drive and you see that big blue tank, that's the radiator system. So the water goes into that, cools it down to like 75 or 80 degrees. And again, I could be off on those numbers. I stand to be corrected. But it reduces the heat of the water, and then the water is pumped into the North Sound. And it's not contaminated water by any means. So I don't want nobody to get the wrong idea. CUC ain't doing anything wrong in regards to pumping the water in the North Sound. It's clean water. It's just wastewater heat, right? And what we had proposed to do was to reroute that hot water, run it through 17 generators, geothermal generators that runs off of steam turbines, and each one of them could have generated 1 megawatt of electricity, 1 megawatt each. So that would have been 17 megawatts that would have been able to be generated for free. The only cost would have been to put the retrofits on that would have not interrupted CUC's core or nothing. It would have just been redirecting that wastewater, that hot water, into these geothermal generators and generating 17 megawatts. So that way you can put 17 megawatts on the grid for the people. CUC said no. Why? Because there's no law that requires them to do anything alternatively that makes sense. Now they do something alternatively that don't make sense, and they're charging us for it because it's on your bill. Alternative renewable energy surcharge. It's on your bill. And that technology have far now advanced since the 2010 proposal that we done 13 years ago. So why is it that CUC not looking into doing those things? But yet you got these big group of engineers over there that willing to get up on a commercial ad every day to tell you that they're doing this and they're doing that, and we're friendly here and we're friendly there, but yet they just wheelbarrowing in the money and we paying for it. Why the government don't go and sit down and say, hey, here what happened? We buying these geothermal generators. We need that wastewater because you pumped it into our North Sound anyway. So here what we're doing. We're going to take that wastewater. We're going to run a geothermal generator. We're going to generate the 17 megawatts, and we're going to send it to the grid and give it to the poor people. I bet you won't hear them do that. I got a proposal that I went to Kirk Tibbetts with. I don't remember what year it was, but I know it was 2017 or thereabouts, or probably maybe before that. I'm not sure, but not that long ago. It was a 1 megawatt solar grid, parabolic grid. It was suggested to use Crown Land to put it on. It was suggested to pump 1 megawatt back to the grid that could have compensated and offset the cost of all public street lights and all that we pay for. I think it was something, I can't remember the exact dollar figure, but I know it was in the millions or thereabouts in the million. It was in the millions. This 1 megawatt would have offset government's costs in public parks and street lights and whatnot, and it would have saved the government. And that plant, that facility will only going to cost $1 million to put up. Now, I had proposed to put it up. All I wanted back was the ROI because the company that was doing it, we just need to pay them back a certain percentage on their money, and then I would have got the maintenance of it over 5 years or whatever the case was. You know what Kurt told me? Oh, Mario, because this is over $250,000, you got to put that out to tender. I say, Kurt, I give you one better than that. I just want the country to benefit. You go ahead and take it. You do it. Take it, give it to your team, pay for it, get it up and running, and let's get it going. And to this day, I never heard a word from him or Tristan Hydes, who sat in the meeting. And I challenged Tristan Hydes to say anything different because he was in the meeting today. I'm not saying that he will. I know he would probably agree with what I'm saying. I'm just simply saying he was there the day that I proposed this in Kurt's office when he would lead up government business. So you know how long ago that was. Or when he was deputy, I don't know. Because the premier title came in 2009, I think. So yeah, it would have had to have been after that. So yeah, maybe he was the deputy or he was the minister, whatever the case was, but he was in charge of NRA. But again, these things fell on deaf ear, and all it was doing is trying to help the people. So nothing that is geared towards helping people is ever prioritized in government, because the political mileage is just not there. All right. My idea with the bridge leads traffic into 5 different intersections into town, West Bay, 4 different. And that right there, in my opinion, is where the problem is that you have too many places that you got to put a bridge and a finger. At least with on land, you put an overhead, you don't need no fingers. You just have exits where you get off in each district. Just exits. That's it. You get on the overpass, you exit off in whichever district you're getting in, and we have them limited to districts. So only people that on that bridge is going to the district, not supermarket or not to the gas station or not to the family house, unless they're in a district. So you have an overhead that leave Georgetown as the center. You get on that overhead, and that go into Prospect, that go into Red Bay, Prospect, Spots, Savannah, Newlands, Bordentown, North Side, East End. End of story. Problem solved. But again, these are the sort of conversations that we need to be having and talk about all the time. So, but anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today's Friday, and I'm just happy that we were able to have 2 regular scheduled shows Wednesday and today with our new background. I still seen a little bit of green around the edges, but we're gonna work on that. We're not sure what it is. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but we're gonna try to fix that. So, you guys have a safe weekend. Think about some of the things that we talked about. If you have any solutions or any ideas about anything that's fundamentally affecting us, share them. Share them on our page, and let's have a conversation about them. I definitely don't have a problem talking about them. So, if you all want to, stick some ideas out there. Jonathan is one of the people that he always sharing his ideas. So and we don't always have to agree with each other, but it makes for good conversation. Yeah. A overpass don't lead to a traffic jam. How it leads to a traffic jam, Jonathan? If you got overpass that people get on that specifically carry you into the eastern districts, how that's a traffic jam? Because the road below will be accommodating all the people who are commuting in between those districts. They're not on the overpass. You'll never have traffic jam with an overpass, ever. But again, that's just my opinion. Anyway, please be safe on the roads. We see now where Cayman has now started to see a constant growth in accidents monthly and annually. Let's try to reduce that. Just be cautious on the road. Be careful. Sometimes you gotta think for other people on the road, not just yourself. And every time we hear about a road fatality, I want to send out my condolences to Thomas and his family. Thomas died earlier this week in Nebraska. I don't know the details around it, so I won't speculate. I refuse to make any comment in regards to what happened. I just know that he was in a car crash, and unfortunately he lost his life. And I know Thomas for a very long time. I went to school with Thomas, and the fact that, you know, you just got to give thanks for every day, man, because you just never know. So, you know, just be very careful on the road. Have a safe weekend. Be conscious of everybody else, and you know, don't forget to like and share our page. And hopefully Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays will be back on regular scheduling. Yeah, thank you for reminding me that, Mr. Producer. We want to also announce where, you know, Jet Around Cayman is coming back to the Cayman. I mean, coming back on an annual basis. It'll be here on the Easter weekend, and we're going to put up a quick flyer so you guys can kind of see what it looked like. There it is in the top corner there. If you look at it good, you'll see where we have a launch party, official party, and race day on Monday. So you guys come on out. It's a non-profit event. All of this is what we're doing to have the event on an annual basis to give our younger generation and the guys who are into the water sports an opportunity to come out and showcase their talents. Because let me tell you, we got some talented jet ski riders on this island, you know. I mean, like world class. So just come out and support them. I know that Siwa has races throughout the year, and these are the sort of events that we need to start supporting and making sure that we properly attend these places and these events to show our support for our local riders and stuff. So yeah, Jet Around Cayman is coming back April Easter weekend. It's going to be a huge event. We're going to start the events from Thursday all the way to Monday. So we'll have the launch party, and then we have the big party on Saturday at the Royal Waltler Terminal. That's where we talking about doing that one, and hopefully free admission to come in, no charge. So hopefully we get a lot of people out to come and support this event for all of our young riders and international riders that hopefully will be coming in. So again, enjoy your weekend, stay safe. Don't forget to like and share our page, and tune in on Monday 9:30. Word of mouth. All right, have a good weekend.
We got to break Sariba up. Sariba is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it. We should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point Pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh, Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes, we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because let me tell you something, this is Dart Island.